Okay, so you know how we love a good space mystery, right?
Right.
Well, buckle up, because today we're diving deep into one that's got everyone talking. The X-37B, America's super secretive space plane.
Oh, yeah, this thing is like the stuff of legend.
Seriously, I mean, it's been operating in the shadows for years.
Yeah.
Classified missions, whispers of crazy tech. It's like the Pentagon's version of Area 51, but, in orbit.
Yeah, it's shrouded in secrecy.
Totally. But here's the kicker with this latest mission. They actually want us to know about one very specific, and I gotta say, daring move they pulled off.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
It
That they're
is.
being so open about this one particular aspect.
Yeah, usually it's all hush-hush.
Exactly. So it
Yeah.
makes you wonder what's going on there.
Right, like, are they trying to send a message?
It's definitely a calculated move, that's for sure.
Okay, so less cloak and dagger, more like, hey, everyone, check out what this baby can do.
Exactly. A bit of a flex, maybe?
Maybe a little bit.
All
But before we get into the why, let's break down the what. What is this maneuver that has everyone talking?
right, so it's called aerobraking.
Aerobraking. Sounds kind of intense.
It does sound a bit sci-fi, doesn't
It
it?
does, like something out of Star Wars.
Right. But it's a real technique, and it's actually incredibly clever.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does it work?
Imagine you're driving down the highway, and you need to slow down.
Okay, I'm with you.
You hit the brakes.
Yeah.
Well, aerobraking is kind of like that, but instead of brake pads, you're using the Earth's atmosphere to create drag.
Wait, so the X-37B is literally surfing on the atmosphere to slow down?
Essentially, it dips into the very upper layers, using friction to reduce its speed.
That's wild. I mean, it sounds kind of risky.
It does, but it's incredibly precise. And when you're talking about a spacecraft designed for extended missions like the X-37B, it's a game changer.
Because fuel isn't exactly unlimited up there, right?
Exactly. Every ounce saved means more time in orbit, more experiments, potentially even longer missions.
So aerobraking is all about maximizing efficiency.
Absolutely. It's all about getting the most out of your spacecraft.
So it's like getting extra mileage out of your, spaceship.
Exactly.
Okay, so this aerobraking thing, it's not exactly brand new, right? Haven't we used it before?
You're right. Think about missions to Mars. The Mars Global Surveyor, the Odyssey, even the more recent ExoMars mission, they all used aerobraking to slow down and adjust their orbits around Mars.
Oh, right. And didn't they use it in that movie Interstellar, too?
You're thinking of that scene where Matthew McConaughey has to slingshot around a black hole?
Yes. That was intense.
Definitely a white-knuckle moment in the movie. And while the X-37B's maneuvers aren't quite that dramatic, it illustrates the core principle.
Right, right. But, whenever we're talking about space travel, we have to address the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the debris field in orbit.
Ah, yes, the ever-growing problem of space junk.
Because the last thing we need is for space to become like a giant cosmic junkyard, right?
Exactly. And that's actually another really important aspect of the X-37B's maneuver. It wasn't just about saving fuel.
Okay, there's more to it.
Right. By using aerobraking to carefully control its descent, the X-37B could release its service module. Think of it like the part of the spacecraft that doesn't need any more into a lower orbit.
Oh, so instead of becoming space debris, it burns up in the atmosphere?
Exactly. It's actually a really responsible way to dispose of spacecraft components.
It's like they're saying, hey, we're not just going to leave our trash floating around up here.
Right. It's about being mindful of the space environment.
Which is something we should all be thinking about, especially with more and more activity happening up there.
Absolutely. Space sustainability is becoming more and more crucial.
Okay, so we've got this super secret space plane pulling off these impressive maneuvers, being environmentally responsible. It all sounds kind of cool.
Well, it's more than just cool, and that's what we'll get into next.
So aerobraking, it's more than just a cool braking system, right?
Right, it's way more than that.
It's like a glimpse into the future of space, like how things are going to be done.
Exactly. And it's a future where things are going to get a lot faster and a lot more maneuverable.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
So think about it. For decades, we've relied on satellites stuck in their orbits.
Kind of like sitting ducks.
Yeah, pretty much. But dynamic space operations, that's all about changing the game.
Dynamic space operations has a nice ring to it.
Right. It's about spacecraft that can move quickly, dodge potential threats, basically become a lot harder to track.
Okay, so less like, what's a good analogy? Less like those big cruise ships.
They're more like a swarm of speedboats.
Exactly.
Able to zip around and reposition themselves as needed.
And that's where aerobraking comes in.
You got it. It gives the X-37B the ability to change its orbit on the fly, without those big telltale engine burns.
So it's like saying to our adversaries, good luck trying to keep up with us.
Exactly. It's all about unpredictability, keeping the other guy guessing.
Sneaky. I like it. But this all sounds a little, I don't know, a little Cold War-ish, right? Like, are we heading towards some kind of space arms race here?
Well, it's interesting you should say that because China just launched its own experimental spaceplane.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's like everyone wants in on the spaceplane game now.
And everyone's being pretty tight-lipped about what their spaceplanes are actually capable of.
Right. They say it's for peaceful purposes, but
It definitely raises some eyebrows.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if there's more to it than meets the eye.
it's like a big cosmic poker game with everyone holding their cards close to their chest.
And with technology this advanced, the stakes are pretty high.
Okay, so we've got this super secretive spaceplane capable of some pretty incredible maneuvers. What does it all mean? Where does it leave us? It's kind of spooky, right? Are we really talking about, like, weaponizing space?
It's a valid concern.
Because I've seen enough sci-fi movies to know how this ends.
Right. And the truth is, that line between space exploration and, space militarization, it's getting blurrier all the time.
So should I be worried?
I wouldn't say worried, but definitely aware
Aware of what?
that the same technology that lets us put a telescope into orbit can also be, well, repurposed.
Okay, that's a little ominous. But isn't that always the case?
It kind of is, yeah. Technology itself isn't good or bad.
It's all about how we use it.
Exactly. And that's where things get tricky.
Especially with all the secrecy surrounding these space programs. I mean, how are we supposed to trust each other when everyone's got secrets?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Because it kind of feels like we're operating in the dark here.
And that lack of transparency, it breeds suspicion, which can lead to escalation. Nobody wants to feel like they're falling behind,
Right, so then what's the answer?
honestly. It's going to take a global effort. We need open communication, clear international agreements, stuff that goes beyond just one country's interests.
So basically, we need to work together if we want space to be a place of, like, cooperation instead of conflict.
Exactly. It's a shared resource, after all.
Wow, this got deep fast. But seriously, this has been eye-opening. The X-37B, aerobraking, space junk. It all seemed kind of technical at first, but there's a much bigger picture here.
There always is.
It's like what you said earlier, we're on the verge of a whole new era in space. But what that era looks like, that's still being written.
And we all have a part to play in writing it.
That's some food for thought right there. Well, that's it for this deep dive into the X-37B and the wild world of dynamic space operations. It's definitely a story we'll be keeping an eye on. Until next time, thanks for listening, and don't forget to look up every once in a while.